Hello everybody, back to Germany. It's good to be back, or is it? I might have to head to my nuclear bunker. Okay, we are almost there. Oh, before I forget, this video is sponsored by Christian Hansen. Mother. No, this video is not sponsored by Christian Hansen. Neither is it sponsored by Native Instruments. The opinions expressed in this video are my own. However, if Native Instruments wants to sponsor me, Native Instruments, I'm your biatch. Today, let's talk about samplers. But why should we talk about samplers? Because if we understand the sampling industry, we are going to understand what tools better serve our purposes, and we're also going to stop companies exploiting us through their marketing. So what is a sampler? A sampler is an electronic or digital instrument which uses sound recordings, also known as samples. You can also look at it as synthesizers that use samples as oscillators, maybe. So let's divide the samplers into three categories. You have the classic samplers, you have the software samplers, and you have the sample players of the various companies. So in the first category we have the historical samplers, Mellotron, which uses tape. Every time you press a key, you get the tape playing back. The EMS and the Fairlights and the Synclavier and all these hardware samplers were popularized by Akai, the MPC and the Roland S series. And let's add machine into the mix from Native Instruments. But the principle is simple. Record sounds into the sampler, you can manipulate them, you can chop them up, you can apply effects, and then you can play them via the hardware pads and sequence them all within the machine. And that would be your classic hardware sampler. The next category is exemplified by software samplers like Kontakt, EXS24 from Apple Logic, Simpler from Ableton, Falcon 2 from UVI, Halion 6 from Steinberg. And also some free alternatives like the TX16WX HISE, which is open source and quite powerful, but you need to have some programming a little bit. And then you have the more popular nowadays, Sforzando and David Hilowitz's Decent Sampler, which we'll come back to in this video. So what are the software samplers? Instead of recording into the sampler, they act more like sampling engines. You use a microphone to record your sounds, and then you use the software to manipulate your sounds and to design your instrument. You use an external MIDI keyboard to perform your samples, and you sequence them in your DAW or any other kind of sequencer. So a software sampler is the sampling engine per se. I personally use Kontakt, but I can use any, and I've used others. It's just that I feel that Kontakt is more intuitive for me. However, the principles that I'm going to be demonstrating in this series of videos are applicable to all software samplers. And finally, you have the sample players of companies like the award-winning dedicated plugin, the Spitfire player, SoundPain by ADO, the Vienna Synchron player. These are mostly just sample players. Their only function is to play back the samples that these companies produce. So these are the three categories of sample players. We need to go back to the studio. So off we go. Today we're going to talk mainly about Kontakt and why Kontakt is one of the best deals you can make. But this doesn't mean that you need to have Kontakt in order to follow my videos. You can follow my videos even if you use one of the other sampling engines, as long as it's relatively deep. A cut missing. Oh well. Let's talk about Kontakt. Why do I like Kontakt? Because it hits the right spot between effort and reward, at least for me. You could use Kontakt and something like this to develop a MPC type of workflow. You could use Kontakt to play a virtual instrument, and you could use Kontakt to design sound effects during movie production. So Kontakt is very versatile. Wow. Kontakt comes in two flavors. Kontakt Full, as it's called, the full version of Kontakt, and the free Kontakt Player. Kontakt Full allows you to play any library made for Kontakt under the sun. And because Kontakt is the most widely used software sampler, the number of libraries paid or free are in the thousands. Importantly, the full version of Kontakt allows you to design and build your very own instruments. Wow. Now, the free version of Kontakt, the free Kontakt Player, comes with some free instruments, and you can also play almost any library that was made for Kontakt. However, you play these libraries in demo mode. There's this little demo notice if you open a library that was not meant for the free Kontakt Player. But what does demo mean? Demo means that you could play with a library for 15 minutes and then you have to restart it. I'm sure you have seen this little disclaimer on some commercial libraries: Kontakt Full required, the full version of Kontakt is required. Well, it's a little bit misleading because you can still use the library, but only for 15 minutes, and then you need to restart it and no settings are saved. So let's think what this limitation means to the end user. If you don't own the full version of Kontakt and you have only the free Kontakt Player, and you buy a library that has a lot of knobs and a lot of settings, which is geared more towards sound design, by the time you design your sound, the 15 minutes are up. It's not very practical. However, if your instrument is more like plug-and-play libraries without any knobs, like the free Frosty Strings, or libraries with very few knobs, like the free Bespoke Aperture that I also gave for free, links above and in the description, you could jump for 15 minutes, and then once the library stops, you can restart and jump for another 15 minutes. And once you decided that you like what you play, you could record it as a MIDI and then render it in your DAW as an audio file. Now, of course, you don't want to spend 300 quid on a library that you have to keep restarting every 15 minutes. So the take-home message is that you could use the free Kontakt Player to play any library as long as that library is simple enough and as long as you just want to jump and render to an audio file for use in another project. And that's something that many people do not realize and many companies do not explicitly say. Wow. So what else can the free Kontakt Player be used for? Native Instruments can encode any library to be used in the free Kontakt Player for an unlimited amount of time, as if you were using it in the full version of Kontakt, but for a fee. So why do companies pay Native Instruments this fee? 3 reasons. The end user only needs to buy the library of that specific sampling company and not the full version of Kontakt. Reason number 2. Since Kontakt is so ubiquitous, these sampling companies benefit by getting exposure to a large market. And reason number 3. Even if the end user owns the full version of Kontakt, the libraries that are encoded by Native Instruments, the end user will not be able to look behind the ranch icon of Kontakt to pry how the library was built. In the case of Spitfire, the end user would not be able to see how Blade went about creating his sandbox to build the mysterious legato scripts for Spitfire audio. So the fee that sampling companies pay to Native Instruments ensures that their clients can fully enjoy the library even if they don't own the full version of Kontakt, without discovering the secrets of how the libraries were built if they do own the full version of Kontakt. Wow. So, how does Native Instrument benefits financially? The model works with 2 streams. On one side, you have the companies that pay Native Instruments for the reasons I just explained, and on the other side, you have the end users that want to play any library, so they purchase the full version of Kontakt. And of course, Native Instruments is paid by a small minority of individuals like myself who use Kontakt mainly for building their own instruments. Wow. Now, having all this information at your disposal, you can easily understand how the third sampling category that I spoke earlier in the video came about, the proprietary sample players of the various sampling companies. Once these companies got enough exposure by paying Native Instruments to encode their libraries and make them available for Kontakt, they start retiring their Kontakt libraries, moving towards their own sample players. Take for instance the award-winning Spitfire player. One can only imagine how the award-winning design came into existence. A Spitfire audio employee runs to Christian Hansen to inform him that Native Instruments just asked for X amount of quid for the next 200 licenses for Albion 1. What should he do? And Christian Hansen said, tell them. You can easily see how the design was born. The second best design that lost to the first was no, it's YouTube. I'll show you on the interface. Wow. So after they made a name for themselves in Kontakt, Spitfire Audio and Christian Hansen come up with videos like this, NONTAKT, to celebrate a free sampler by David Hilowitz, the decent sampler. That will be another video examining the behavioral economics of piano book. I have nothing against David Hilowitz, I actually like the guy. I just think that decent sampler, yes, it's free and it appears to be versatile, but for the price of Kontakt, I think that these free players make it difficult for the end user to build the actual libraries. About a year ago, I emailed Native Instruments discussing the proliferation of nuclear weapons.
No nuclear, free samplers.
Free samplers, suggesting that perhaps they should consider changing their economic model by extending the 15 minutes limit in the free Kontakt player to 45 minutes. I'm not going to go into detail, but there was a lengthy point-by-point discussion with Native Instruments, which also told me that Native Instruments, they take seriously their customers' opinions. Anyhow, how does Spitfire Audio benefit from having their sample engine? Two ways. They don't pay Native Instruments for the encoding fees, but one of the most important reasons is that they move the end user away from a real sampling engine that could potentially wake up the user and make them realize that they could build their own instruments easier than they thought, even without the smell of Air Studios. Wow. Nowadays, Christian Hansen, the co-founder of Spitfire Audio, refers to Kontakt as the Paywall. Keep that in mind while we go through some factual prices. The latest emotional library of Spitfire Audio, Hellroom.
Cut.
What?
Heirloom.
Heirloom.
No. Heirloom.
Is on special offer for 229. I think the usual price is 299 euros. An Albion one is 499, something like that. Oh, sorry, what? 449. The full version of Kontakt is 199 euros. BBC Symphony Orchestra from Spitfire Audio is 999 euros. Complete 13 from Native Instruments that comes with Isotope's music production suite, where you get RX9, Ozone 9, full version of Kontakt, full version of Reactor, a heap of instruments, all the libraries you will ever need for media production, Massive, Absinthe, FM8, cost 699 euros. I think it's apparent that Spitfire Audio's Paywall make Native Instruments' asking price appear like a little pay fence.
Hey, but what about BBC Symphonic Orchestra Discover? You can start writing music with the world famous BBC Symphony Orchestra. It's 33 instruments. It's brought to life inside their free, easy to use plugin, compatible with any major music creation software. Or you can pay 49 euro, but you can wait 2 weeks and you can get it for free. Or how about Spitfire Labs, an infinite amount of
Can you please get rid of the body? Thank you. So before you jump to pay for the next big professional library, consider the facts and the prices and make an educated decision. In my opinion, the complete package from Native Instruments is the best investment if you're interested in media composition. And I made that investment over 20 years ago. I hope that there was some useful information for you in this video. And until next time, remain happy.